Good afternoon. Welcome to our Facebook Live Town Hall. It's been a very interesting couple of weeks since the last one. We did a telephone town hall this past Monday night. About 1,400 people checked in and dialed in during the course of the town hall. So it was a very nice crowd and a lot of really good questions that we were able to answer there. And then this past Sunday, we had a live town hall at the library. It's our third live town hall that we've held. We will be holding a town hall on Medicaid at the library on April 26th, and we are scheduling another one to discuss prescription drugs, and that hopefully will be up at the senior center, and we'll put out email and notices when that is finally scheduled. In addition to that, we've had several interviews with various groups. Progressive Maryland yesterday, number of events on Saturday. It's been a very, very busy time. The legislature is really going into high-speed mode these last 3 weeks. We've had more bills introduced this year than in the history of the legislature. So we have been having hearings and voting bills out very quickly, going late most nights. And House delegates had a Saturday session and are in right now. We'll be heading down for an earlier session this evening in the Senate. But we cleared the desk Friday evening and stayed late Friday evening and cleared all the items that came through. So we'll be working late and long these last 3 weeks. Just a few things I might touch on a little bit. We did pass out of the Senate a bill this week. Had several bills in and kind of rolled them together, which happens quite often. We passed a bill to allow free tuition at community colleges in the state of Maryland. And it is just for those who start college right out of high school. So our youth that moves right into community college after graduation will no longer have to pay tuition in Maryland if they're going full-time. And we did amend that to allow full-time to be 12 hours per semester, so that if someone's working and can't take a full 15 or 18-hour load, they can still be eligible for this. Also, we allowed free tuition for vocational certificates for anyone. So that's for young people right out of high school, or someone who may lose a job and want to go back for a second career and get training in plumbing, bricklaying, HVAC, various certificates like that. There are a lot of good jobs out there that pay well in those fields, and they're having trouble finding employees. So it's an opportunity for those that don't go to college, and for some that go to college who would still like to work in the trades. So very pleased with that happening. I had a bill in this year too for tax credit for the film industry. That's local filmmakers in Maryland, and we have quite a few here in Frederick that have made some well-known films. For example, the Blair Witch Project was done by a guy in Frederick. Several of these people have to go to California 6 months a year to do their work. Atlanta's becoming a big film industry place, and as is New York. This would give them the opportunity to make films in Maryland, to hire Maryland people, Maryland actors, Maryland directors, camera people, sound behind the scenes. So over the next 4 years, it's about $7.5 million in tax credits to make films here. So hopefully that will help another business prosper here in the state of Maryland, and the return on those investments is very great. We passed the budget this past week. That is one constitutional requirement. We must have a budget. States, unlike the federal government, have to produce a budget and a balanced budget. We made some changes. The federal budget, we were tied to that you couldn't take itemized deductions after the federal bill passed. So we changed that back so that Marylanders can either do itemized or take a standard deduction. I have a forest conservation bill in that's being discussed, and it's being negotiated. It's a very difficult one. We're trying to have every tree taken down, a tree replaced. MACO and MML aren't happy with that, but it's very important to the environment, to clean water, to keep these trees for all the good things they do. And we think it's a doable thing, but we're still working on some compromises, and hopefully we'll get a forest conservation bill through. We've had a lot of discussion over body cameras. If the police are called, say you call the police to your house, you think there's been a break-in, and they come and discover that nothing's there. The police have body cameras on, and they're walking through your house. They see your family. They see the rooms in your house. And people don't want that made public. It would be like a robber's gold mine. They see the layout of your house, who's in it, and whatever. So we have tried to say that that part is not available to the public. A lot of the groups like the ACLU, the NAACP, other groups want everything available. So I try to stay with them in that we don't want things that might become a court matter or whatever not to be available, but also we don't want to invade the privacy of someone. If the police happen to come in and find that there was no incident and there's really no need to put it up. So it's a real balance we've been trying to work on there. I had two bills presented this week, last two. One, it's becoming more predominant now, though. It's just starting. We haven't seen a problem here in Maryland yet, but they have microchips available that they can implant in a human. Some big companies want to do that on an employee. They can open the locked door with that. They can get items out of a vending machine with their microchip. Also, companies can look and see if you're at your desk or how long a coffee break you took, or if you're working. If individuals get into it, I guess a husband and wife can, watch where each other's going. So basically, we feel this is an invasion of privacy, and the bill would say that a microchip can't be implanted in someone without their permission. It can't be required or pressure put on you to do it. If you choose to, and there are some advantages if someone has Alzheimer's and is still at home and wanders off, like we have them in our dogs, you can locate the person and have that. But again, it's an optional thing. People can't be coerced into having a microchip. Frankly, there are hundreds of bills coming through at this point, and this is the advantage of the committee system. We have 4 committees in the Senate. I'm on Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs. We have Judicial Proceedings, and we have Finance, and we have Budget and Taxation. all the bills that come in are sent to one of those 4 committees. My committee gets almost half of all of them, so we are very busy. But what happens then, each committee deals with their specialties, and then they send it to the floor, and you don't have to be an expert in every field. If a bill comes to the floor from one of these committees, not mine for example, and it passed 11-0, you feel pretty confident then that it's a good bill and tend to vote for it. If it comes in 6-5 or it's a social matter, a controversial one, then you delve into that more seriously, and there may be a fight on the floor about the bill. But it does help move things through quicker and with more examination when you have the various committees study those bills. We have not gotten the capital budget yet. I would assume that's going to be in this week or next week. Usually each house gets so much money that they can award back to local capital projects. The governor this entire term has zeroed out that budget, but the legislature has put about $10 million back in, $5 million in each house, $5 to $6 million in each house, and it goes for local projects. For example, this year had a request to help finalize renovating the Helen Smith painting studio where she used to paint, which is being moved over to Middletown. Private school and would be used there. We had a request for some additional money at the Heritage Foundation, which is the old historic preservation offices, to do some improvements there. We had a request from the ranch where they are dealing with drug issues, and had a request from the Boys and Girls Club, who took over the old Washington Street School and are renovating that to expand programs for boys and girls there. The YMCA has been asking for additional money. We awarded them some money last year for the flood damage at the Frederick City YMCA. They're now raising funds to build new YMCA an aquatic center in Urbana. So it's those type of requests. They're all ones this year. I believe that Spires Art Center got some funds that the governor put in his capital budget. So there are a lot of local projects that we help with like that we try to get funds from that. We meet this evening. 3 weeks from today is the last day of the session. We usually go in at 10 in the morning that last day, and we go till midnight. And we're exchanging things back and forth across the houses and debating some of the big issues. And when midnight comes, that's it. If a bill isn't passed by midnight, it's dead. Last session, one of my bills came across at about 5 seconds after midnight, and fortunately they took it and passed it, and it was the last bill passed in the session. But it was 5 seconds late, and they actually could have skipped it because it, as I said, at midnight they stopped. There was a time when they used to unplug the clock at 5 at 12 and go on till they got finished and plug it back in, even if it was 3 in the morning. But that's not done anymore. The clock's not unplugged at 12 o'clock. A lot of the interns are upstairs, and they drop balloons, and everybody shakes hands and leaves. And if something didn't get done, it doesn't get done until the next year. One big issue that's going on that's not finalized is the Kirwan Commission. Dr. Kirwan, who is the Chancellor of the University of Maryland and is president of several universities, is working with the commission to look at education in Maryland. We have slipped in Maryland during this administration from first in the country after 6 straight years to about 6th in the country. And when you get into it, we've gotten weaker in other areas, and we really would like to see education in Maryland get back to best in the country and, very frankly, best in the world. And it is going to take a lot of money. The cost estimates on it are extremely high. We need to pay teachers more. It's always controversial, but we're lucky we get some very good teachers, but a lot of the best and brightest either don't come into teaching anymore or come in and leave. So we've got to get good teachers, recruit good teachers, and keep good teachers. We want to find ways to create master teachers that we pay extra, that are very good in their fields and have gotten extra training to keep them. We need to look at the technology in schools. We need to look at pre-kindergarten. We need, by 3rd grade, if a child's not reading, there's a very good chance they're never going to become real good readers, and you can almost predict some children at that age are going to be problems when they grow up. So we really need to put a lot of emphasis on those early years and get children off to a good start. And if they're off to a good start, they usually succeed. So there are a whole lot of areas that's going to cost a lot of money. Now, one thing we have already done, when casinos were built in Maryland, it was pledged that all that money would go to education. But during recessions and whatever, about $500 million of that was put out to other areas. So this year, we're going for a constitutional amendment that says that every dollar of profit generated at the casinos goes to education. So that $500 million would be phased back over to education to help support the Kirwan report and other areas that we can derive funds from that. It's something that's going to be costly, but it's something that needs to be done, and we need to do it and find a way to do it without raising taxes in a drastic way. And I think that through programs that are available with existing money and through some areas where we can raise money without doing it with Maryland taxes, and in some cases we may have to a little, but we need to bring our education back to the top in the country, and like I said, hopefully the top of the world. The Kirwan Commission has asked for an extension. They're going to still be meeting into the next session. We have taken some actions this year on what they've recommended, but the real recommendations will come in next year. We have also created like a $30 million fund to go back into schools where they have water problems with the pipes, where they have no air conditioning, where the heating systems have broken down, where repairs aren't as good as they should be. So no more than 15 million of that can go into any one jurisdiction, but there's 30 million altogether to go around the state to help with those items. So we are taking steps to help out with education in that sense, and we're still, again, funding a lot of the construction of schools. And being a growing county, that's one that's a real burden on Frederick. And the county commissioners did a good job of forward funding and doing some things to complete Frederick High School and build several new elementary schools that were required. So we're there for 3 more weeks. If there are items out there and bills out there that you're still interested in, and there are a lot of them, please contact us and express your feelings. we're there to try to do what's best for our own communities, our own district, me in District 3, but on the other hand, we're all state senators and have to look at the full scope of what needs to be done. We are responding to some things like gun issues, outlawing bump stocks, trying to strengthen background checks, things like that to address the issue that we've had in schools. Fortunately, we haven't had any of those in Maryland, and we do already have among the strongest laws in the state, but they need to be tightened, and we need to look at mental health issues, and people that are abusers and whatever shouldn't have guns. So we're trying to protect the Second Amendment rights, but on the other hand, see that the wrong kind of guns don't get in the hands of the wrong kind of people, so that we have an incident here in Maryland like they've had many places across the country. That always is one of the most controversial issues we deal with. They're the Second Amendment people, and there are people that wish there were no guns at all. I personally have never owned one and haven't felt the need to, but we do need hunters, and there are people that enjoy it. I mean, we have a serious deer problem in the state, and that helps keep that down because they eat farmers' crops, and they do provide meat for some people that can't afford it, and many of the hunters then donate their deer meat to food kitchens and places that help people that can't afford meat. So it's an issue that's controversial and will probably stay that way for a long time, but we're doing our best to balance it, to keep our citizens safe, to protect our school children, but allow people to still have their basic rights. So I could go on. As I said, we do have some upcoming events. Expect, if you're a voter, expect a knock on your door from myself between now and June for the primary, and then on into November to the general election, and I'm sure many other candidates. I would urge everybody, get out and vote. Obviously, I'd appreciate your vote, but get out and vote for whomever you support. There is nothing more important, and there are people who think their votes don't matter. They do. There were not that many votes in several areas that could have turned the presidency around. Whether you like this president or not, your vote mattered as to who will be president. It matters to who your congressman will be. For those of you that just watched what happened in a congressional district in a special election in Pennsylvania, about 230,000 people voted, and if 300 or 400 had changed their vote, there would have been a different winner. There have been elections where one vote has actually mattered. So it does matter. I think it's everybody's responsibility, and they should get out and determine who your leaders are going to be, because if you don't, somebody determines for you. And then when you're complaining, if you complain, at least you had your say if you voted. So thank you all for tuning in. We'll be doing another one of these in 2 weeks.
There's a question.
Oh, before I go, we just had a question come in.
Billy Heidelbrand, sorry if I'm getting the name wrong. When will vote on ripen done machines for fraternities?
When
will vote on, I think it may be ripen or ripen. Sorry if you can't read it. It's that one.
on machine. When will Billy, I'm really not sure what that question is. Ripen, is that a misprint? If you will send something back in, I think I'm going to have trouble answering it today. If you send something in, we'll either get back to you directly or deal with it at the next town hall. I'm sorry that we can't quite figure out what it is. But get back to us and give us an email address, or we can try to answer you here. But we'll get an answer back to you. With that, I thank everybody for tuning in. I will say, as always, we do put these up on Facebook. So if you can't participate today, you can watch them. We have a lot of other information that we put there. So. Please check the Facebook out. Contact my office directly if you need anything, if we can be of assistance. We do a lot of constituent service. That's one of our major functions, to help people here that we can. So thank you very much, and we'll talk to you again soon.